What if I told you that some of the most powerful computer companies in American history are completely gone today? Not struggling, not sold off to a smaller outfit, gone. The building's empty, the name's forgotten. And some of them vanished almost overnight. Today, we are going to walk through 9 of them. And some of these stories are going to surprise you. 9. Tandy Corporation. Let us start with one you might not expect. Tandy Corporation started out selling leather goods in Fort Worth, Texas. That is right, leather, belt kits, saddle supplies. But in 1963, a man named Charles Tandy made a move that nobody saw coming. He bought a small, struggling chain of electronics stores called Radio Shack, and he turned it into something extraordinary. In 1977, Radio Shack introduced the TRS-80, one of the very first personal computers ever sold to everyday Americans. You did not need to be an engineer or a scientist to buy one. You could walk into your local Radio Shack on Main Street, hand over a few $100s, and walk out with a home computer under your arm. For millions of Americans, the TRS-80 was their very first one. By the early 1980s, Tandy was one of the biggest names in personal computing. Eventually, the computer manufacturing side faded, and by 2000, the company had renamed itself Radio Shack Corporation entirely. But for a few years in the late 1970s, a leather goods company from Fort Worth, Texas, was leading the personal computer revolution. 8. Osborne Computer Corporation. Now here is a story that moves fast, because Osborne Computer Corporation only lasted about 2 years. Adam Osborne launched the Osborne 1 in 1981 in Hayward, California. It was the first commercially successful portable computer ever sold. It weighed 24 pounds, had a tiny screen, and cost $1,795. But it came bundled with software that was worth far more than that on its own, and people lined up for it. Then Adam Osborne made one of the most famous mistakes in business history. He publicly announced his next model before it was ready. Customers stopped buying the machine sitting on shelves because they wanted to wait for the new one. Sales collapsed almost immediately. In 1983, just 2 years after launching, Osborne Computer filed for bankruptcy. Business schools still teach this story today. They call it the Osborne effect, and it is a lesson that every startup founder has heard at least once. 7. Commodore International. Commodore was built by a man named Jack Tramiel, a Polish immigrant and Holocaust survivor who came to America with almost nothing. He started by repairing typewriters, then he sold them, then he built a company around them. And eventually, Jack Tramiel set his sights on something much bigger. In 1982, Commodore released the Commodore 64. It sold for $595. It had color graphics, it could play music, and it connected to your television set right there in your living room. It became the best-selling personal computer model of all time. Millions of American kids grew up with that machine on the family desk. Jack Tramiel used to say he built computers for the masses, not the classes. And for a while, he proved it. But internal battles, management changes, and a market that was moving faster than anyone could keep up with pushed the company to the edge. Commodore filed for bankruptcy in 1994. Jack Tramiel's journey from a displaced person in post-war Europe to the man behind the best-selling computer in history is one of the great American stories that almost nobody tells. 6. Atari Corporation. Most people know Atari as a video game company, and they are right. But there is a chapter of the Atari story that often gets skipped over entirely. Atari was founded in 1972 in Sunnyvale, California by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney. After years of ownership changes, Jack Tramiel, the same man who built Commodore, bought the consumer division of Atari from Warner Communications in 1984. He relaunched it as Atari Corporation and went straight after the personal computer market with the Atari ST line. It was a capable machine, especially popular with musicians because of its built-in MIDI capabilities. Recording studios and bedroom producers across the country used it, but the window was closing. Atari Corporation eventually merged with a disk drive company called JTS in 1996, and that was the end of that chapter. 5. Packard Bell. Packard Bell is a name that deserves a second look. In the late 1980s and into the 1990s, Packard Bell computers started showing up everywhere. Discount stores, big box retailers, department stores. They were affordable, they were accessible, and they put computers into homes that had never had one before. Based out of California, the company carved out a massive share of the budget PC market at a time when getting a computer into a working-class home still felt like something out of a science fiction movie. They were not the fanciest machines on the shelf, but they worked, and regular families could actually afford them. As competition grew fiercer and margins shrank to almost nothing, Packard Bell faded from American shelves quietly and quickly. By the end of the 1990s, they were gone from the United States market entirely. 4. Silicon graphics. If you have ever watched Jurassic Park or Terminator 2, you have already seen what silicon graphics made possible, even if you never knew it. Founded in 1982 by Jim Clark, a professor at Stanford University, Silicon Graphics built high-performance workstations that could do things no other machine on Earth could touch at the time. Hollywood studios used SGI machines to create some of the most groundbreaking visual effects in film history. The dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, the liquid metal villain in Terminator 2. All of it rendered on Silicon Graphics hardware inside a building most moviegoers would never hear about. At its peak, Silicon Graphics was worth billions of dollars. Engineers wanted to work there. Studios needed their machines. But as standard personal computers became more and more powerful, the need for specialized SGI workstations slowly dried up. The company that helped bring dinosaurs back to life filed for bankruptcy in 2009. 3. Sun Microsystems. Sun Microsystems was founded in 1982 by a group of engineers and students connected to Stanford University, and they set up shop in Santa Clara, California. They built workstations and servers that quietly powered the internet as it grew through the 1980s and 1990s. A lot of what you did online in those years ran on Sun hardware, even if the name never appeared on your screen. Sun also gave the world the Java programming language in 1995, a piece of technology that is still running on billions of devices today. At its height, Sun Microsystems was one of the most valuable technology companies on Earth. But the dot-com crash hit them extremely hard and they never fully recovered. In 2010, Oracle Corporation acquired Sun Microsystems for $7.4 billion. The name disappeared not long after. 2. Compaq. In 1982, Rod Canyon and two colleagues from Texas Instruments sat down at a diner in Houston and sketched out a business idea on a restaurant placemat. Not a napkin, a placemat. That sketch became Compaq Computer Corporation. Compaq built the first IBM-compatible portable computer and grew into one of the most recognized brand names in the world. By the mid-1980s, they were setting sales records that no company had ever seen before. Workers in Houston had jobs, the factory floors were busy, and the name Compaq was showing up in offices and homes all across America. By the late 1990s, Compaq had even purchased Digital Equipment Corporation, one of the oldest and most respected computer companies in the country, for $9.6 billion. But in 2002, Hewlett-Packard acquired Compaq, and the name was eventually retired. The placemat sketch had built a global empire, and then it was gone. 1. Gateway. In 1985, a young man named Ted Waite started a computer company out of his grandmother's farmhouse in Sioux City, Iowa. He had dropped out of college, gone back home, and decided to bet everything on an idea. He called it Gateway 2000. Gateway shipped computers directly to your front door, and when that box arrived, it was covered in black and white cow spots, like a Holstein dairy cow, because Ted Waite was proud of where he came from, and he wanted the whole country to know it. He was not pretending to be something he was not. He was a kid from Iowa, and that was going to be part of the brand, whether anyone liked it or not. People loved it. Those cow boxes became iconic. Neighbors would see one on your porch and know exactly what was inside. At its peak, Gateway had tens of thousands of employees and over $1 billion in annual revenue. But like so many others, the competition became too fierce and the margins too thin. In 2007, the Taiwanese company Acer acquired Gateway, and the cow boxes disappeared from doorsteps for good. 9 brands, 9 stories, a leather shop in Fort Worth, a farmhouse in Iowa, a Stanford classroom, a restaurant placemat in Houston. All of them started with an idea. All of them built something real, something that people brought into their homes and their lives. And all of them are gone. The names have faded. But the machines they built are still sitting in attics and garages across this country. And every single one of them has a story worth telling.